Yes, it is. Recording is in progress. Welcome to Tattoos and Toddlers today. This amazing podcast I just decided to do organically. It's amazing. And I'm having so much fun bringing on special guests as well as my usual returning co-host, Kacie, which is not here today, but I brought a very, very special guest who you will know if you are in the wedding industry. Fausto is with me here today. And I'm Jen with Weirdo Weddings. I am a wedding photographer and conceptual artist with Pink Light Images as well. And Fausto, why don't you just go ahead and briefly introduce yourself?
Hey everybody, I am Fausto Pifferer. I own Blue Elephant Events and Catering in the state of Maine, plus a wedding magazine called Real Maine Weddings. We also broker venues in the state of Maine. So yay.
Yes, and I had the pleasure of meeting you, which nobody can see this photo behind me, but we got to meet up at the lighthouse. And I also got you handed me all this stuff that you had from your meetings. And so I really was impressed with the magazine. Not that y'all needed my opinion, but the layout of the magazine was just so well done. And one of your most recent, because Ruben does the work, right?
Ruben's the editor, yes.
So the cover of that, one of those last ones, I just loved the cover. And of course I loved your cover for Events Therapy magazine, because that was like the cutest thing ever. And actually I grabbed that graphic for this podcast that's gonna go out. So we're gonna get to the meat of it today. So I was talking to Fausto about my new podcast, and he's like, yeah, I've got tattoos. And I was like, and you also have a kiddo, which we can talk about what it was like for you to have a small child and be a business owner, and apparently have quite the story moving state to state, y'all. So stay tuned for the ride here, because first we're going to hear about these tattoos. So Fausto, I'd love to hear about what did you want to start with for one of your tattoo stories?
Well, I'll tell you the very first tattoo that I got. It was my cousin, myself, and a friend of ours. We were going into Center City, Philadelphia to go to this tattoo parlor in South Street. And we were really excited because it was my first one. And as we're driving, and thank God we weren't driving as fast as I thought we were going, because hand to God, this car flipped. You know, like in those action movies, like the Fast and Furious, it flipped over and then landed in the guardrail back on its wheels. And we literally just skated right through. And I'm like, oh my God. So I had all this adrenaline. So the tattoo did not bother me because I was full of adrenaline. And then, that was my very first tattoo. And once you get one tattoo, you just
have to keep going. It's the needle. The needle calls you back.
Exactly. And so I remember being so unhappy in my career in Philadelphia because I was missing something, that I remember crying with this one tattoo, and I had the word happiness in Japanese written on my back. And I thought that if I put happiness on my body, I would feel happy. And it's not a mistake tattoo. It was a mistake in thinking that would bring me happiness. You see what I mean? I don't know if you get what I'm saying.
That's powerful. No, that's powerful, because it's one thing to have the word, but not be the word.
Exactly. And I thought that by putting it there, I would automatically, this happiness would be in my body because the ink made it there. And I don't regret it. It's just part of who I am.
Do you feel that it also brings back, now that we're talking about this, does this bring do you have a sense of seeking happiness because you still have this tattoo that says happiness?
No, because I knew why I was unhappy. I wanted children. And because obviously I'm gay, it was very difficult for my partner and I to have a child. We're two men. Biologically, yes, you can have a surrogate. But with so many children needing to be adopted or, fostered, we chose the adoption route. And so I think that's where that all came from. And maybe I'm just hypothetically thinking that that's the way it was. But in my mind, that's what I'm choosing to believe, I guess. But
I'm sure. I was going to say maybe that's changed over time too. I mean, your daughter is how old now?
She'll be 17 this year.
17. So you've got a few years on you as a parent. And I imagine that, I'm only in year 6, but I imagine that our visions for our children change over time. Our visions of ourselves change over time, and our expectations and what our definition of even happiness is anymore. And I just remember you talking so fondly about there's some times that I remember you telling some stories about, sorry guys, if the building's on fire, I'm grabbing my daughter first and I'm out of here.
Well, when we adopted, obviously we adopted her at birth. I got to cut the umbilical cord. And I think that that's when the happiness started to flow into my veins and my body from this so-called tattoo that I thought would bring me
Yeah.
happiness, but it was really, it was her waiting for me that brought me my biggest happiness. Um,
Yeah.
I remember cutting the Accord and then going home and then going, oh my God, what do we do? We're in her birth state. I want some sort of kind of privacy for the next 18 years.
Yeah.
And my partner's originally from Maine, and so we
Mhm.
decided to literally sell everything and leave and move to a state we knew nothing about, move with a newborn baby. So, like I said earlier in the conversation, gay, Hispanic, and I'm dangling a baby like a big emblem chain around my neck going, yep, we're gay and we're here, which was really interesting. And I think the biggest things for me were that I didn't understand the laws for gay men or gay women or
Mhm.
transgender or LGBTQ plus community, that we weren't allowed to have these things. And that was an eye opener because in 2006 she was born, 2007 we moved, and those first 6 months in Philadelphia, I needed permission slips to just take her to the pediatrician,
Mm.
which was really hurtful in a very, I don't want to say malicious way, because I don't think it was malicious, but I just felt less than a human, because I just thought, here I am taking everything I own to take care of this child, and yet you need a permission slip from Ruben, who we gave permission to adopt her because he had the better insurance. So we chose
Mm.
the better insurance because obviously I'm in the event industry, so our insurance isn't always the best, and he
Yeah.
for a foundation. And so that's how sort of that all went. And then we moved, and in 2007 the laws changed, and we were both on her birth certificate as her parent. But then moving to a state with a newborn child, getting the business off the ground,
Yeah.
we lost a lot. I mean, because I was constantly working to get the business going, so I missed that so-called happiness that I wanted to get the business off the ground to make it sustainable for her future. So, you sort of
Yeah.
sacrifice a couple of things along the way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think a lot of us out there resonate with that, because no matter what you do, you're spending your time somewhere else.
Yeah.
If you're not with your kid, you're somewhere else. If you're at work, you're not with your kid. If you're with your kid, you're not at work. And like you, like I'm passionate about working. I actually like to work. I like my
Mhm.
work. I'm happy when I'm working. I do feel fulfilled in that area of my life. Then I also have, in turn, I feel fulfilled as a parent, and knowing that this little kid is looking up to me to help, guide them through this crazy world. So how much of a battle was it? I know you just gave me the a little bit of what it was like having to work all the time and then miss a few things, but have you been able to come back and visit that and maybe even like work through was there any guilt with that?
Oh, there's a ton of guilt actually, because not only that, I don't know if everybody remembers that when we moved, in 2008, 9, and 10, it was the recession, and
Yes, that
literally
was the first one. I was married to Zach, and yeah, we were going through that as well.
I was paying the girl who was sitting with her while we were working in dollar bills because that's all I had. I sunk all of my money, and I'm never ever embarrassed to talk about my journey. I lost my house in Philadelphia. I thought I could be a landlord, and I
Yeah.
had to short sell it, and I lost my shirt. I lost everything, but I kept the business going because I needed her to have a future. And it took everything in me, and it literally, when people say I worked for tips, I worked for tips, because that's literally all the cafe was bringing in, because we opened a cafe to get people to know us until we can get the event company started
Yeah.
off the ground. And it was hard. It was one of those things that you wanted to give up at times, but you had this little creature that was literally everything and looked to you for all of the nourishment that you had to give it. And so we chugged along, and along the way, I don't know how we did it, but we did it. But with missing a lot of that and
Yeah.
going back and exploring the guilt that I have for missing all of that time, I took more of the mother role, not taking away from a mom. I'm not saying that,
Absolutely. Yeah.
but those are the roles that somehow happen.
Yeah.
And so those beginning years was all me.
Mhm.
And then now, as she's going into the teenage years, It's Ruben. And there's a little bit of jealousy there. I'm going to be honest with
Aw.
you.
Aw, and you know, like she's mama's girl right now. And then even my counselor told me that there would be a flip-flop
Mhm.
potentially as she gets older. And so I'm trying to cherish these moments that she does cling to me and not be so get away, get away. Like I know that I have so much capacity as a personality and a person to take on the needs of the world and people around me, but my daughter will just take it right from me and I'll give it to her. But then I'm like, get away, just give me a break. But
I think
yeah.
for me, the best moments that I remember in the because we lived with Ruben's parents for 11 years too while
Mm,
we got the business growing. So
mm,
not only did she get to experience living with her grandparents, but we were
yeah.
living all together. And for me, the moments that I cherish the most for those first 11 years and living in that house was sleeping in the same bed. And I know a lot of people say, oh, you shouldn't sleep with your child in the same bed. If you can and they want to, absolutely do it, because there's going to be a time they don't even want you to touch them.
It's true.
So I cherish those moments.
I'm telling you, yeah, like I was never a co-sleeper. I prefer to just be alone in general. I don't want no cats, I don't want no husband, I don't want no kid. And this is so funny because well, I know you missed a few things when she was little, but did you co-sleep when she was younger?
Oh yeah,
Like
like
super little?
when she was a baby, she would only sleep on with me and go to
Oh,
sleep. So that was my most cherished moment, because the first year it was all me, because literally the
right.
business wasn't taken off yet. And, I quit my job to stay home. Ruben had the better job, better insurance. So I quit and stayed home and did everything. And then I would work on the weekends 40 hours.
Yeah.
So I would miss the weekends with her, but I had all week with her. You see what I mean? So
Yeah,
we
the little
played off of
flip-flop
that.
there. Yeah.
And so I the first year was great. Second year, as the business started, we really took off in about 2013, 2014. It really exploded. So we were there, but not there. If you understand what I mean, because we
Yeah.
work Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. And what do? All events happen Friday, Saturday, and Sunday in normal people's lives.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you have like, at least for me, this is like my first real school year. And I don't know what that was like for y'all, but I'm like, my whole schedule changed and my world had to revolve around that for this last year.
Mhm.
And here we are at the tail end of kindergarten. I'm just like, whoa, I made it. My first year. How many more to go?
Well, I learned something early on. I am not a parent that likes to pick up or take a kid to school. I get frustrated in the school lines. Those are the craziest things. I mean, people
They
arrive
are.
early and they choose their line. And if you cut in front of them, they are ready to fight you with a shank.
It's so true. Like, there's some schools that I drive by in my neighborhood, and I knew that I wanted something different. I was like, if I sit in this school line, something bad's going to happen. It was backed up past the four-way stop, and I was like, they're literally stopping traffic sitting in this car line. And so I found a school that was decent enough that's completely removed from being backed up into the main streets, thank God. But yeah, you're right. Like even this morning, I was like, okay, which lane do I pick? Which lane? And I have to go all the way in and around and do a loop-de-loop. And what was really cute was when they were doing the initiation video, they had this guy put a video on his dash to show us, like, we were stupid, how to get, which is great because I was like, I want to know exactly how to get there, which lane I was supposed to be.
Same thing. And it's so funny because when we were choosing schools for Sophia, we were trying to be very careful and nurture the fact that we were two gay men, and
Yeah,
the world wasn't as open as it is today.
yeah,
And
yeah.
so we chose first a Montessori school
Hmm.
that we scraped for her to go to, because it was
Hmm.
6 to the classroom. And then she
Yeah.
went to a Hebrew school. So she went to a Jewish school and we're not even Jewish.
Oh,
so,
love
so we
it.
so we sent her to a Jewish school, and that was really great. The experience was wonderful. But again, this is not where I'm very good with parent-to-parent interactions, because when I said to one of the parents one day, I said, "Oh, Sophia really loves your little boy." And she looked at me like my head was on fire. And I know Jewish parents don't like non-Jewish brides. So I said, have you looked at her? She's the prize. And of course, that did not go over well. And so I tend to go with a lot of funny things here and there. And then we sent her to a hippy dippy school, and I say this with respect. We are just not granola kind of people because it was a parent-run school, and they give you assignments like you have to clean the school. It's your week to clean it, and I'm fine with that. But I brought in my Clorox. I brought in this, and you're not supposed to use any of those chemicals.
You're supposed to use the homemade kind, right?
Exactly. And they came
Lemon
in
juice.
and they're like, they said it smells in here. I said, I know it smells clean. So we did not stay there very long. And then
gosh.
all of our fears then we sent her to a public school here.
Yeah.
And she immediately made friends with everybody.
Aww.
And school is so different than what we have experienced in our lifetime.
It's true.
That it's a different world. And what I was afraid of my own crap that I was carrying for her. And as parents, I think sometimes we, or myself, I shouldn't talk about other parents or how they do it, but I had formulated her life in my head.
Yeah.
And it wasn't mine to formulate. And I had, that was a hard lesson to learn, because in my head, I wanted grandchildren. I wanted the wedding. I do weddings. I plan weddings. I have her whole day planned, everything like that. And it's not turning out that way. And I needed to really understand that. And so it was an eye opener, but she's a great kid, and we love her. And a tattoo story that ties into this. About 6 years ago, I love my daughter a lot. So I have her handprint and the time she was born on this arm. On
like her baby handprint or her adult handprint?
No, my God, no, her baby handprint. And I have her heartbeat on this arm, on my right arm. Oh my
gosh, you're just killing me with the cuteness. Okay.
So then
can you put your arm up? I want to see. Oh,
there's the heartbeat, and then there's the handprint and time she was born.
Oh my gosh, that is so cute. That is so creative.
And so I wanted her name tattooed in Greek letters on my back. But when I went to the tattoo guy, I was imagining the small little.
Oh no.
And it is my back.
Oh no.
So I came home and she is freaking out because she was little. She goes, wash it off. Wash it off.
No.
She is having a meltdown. She wouldn't look at me, talk to me, touch me. She was mortified.
Gosh.
And I'm like, well, nobody knows it's you. It's just Greek, and it says Sophia.
That's my newest tattoo that I haven't talked about. I'll share briefly. Like, I did walk in there with this 2 or 3 inch idea, and I walked out with a 6 or 7 inch tattoo. So, and then, when eventually I'm going to tell the story of this tattoo, but the funny thing is it's my most visible one. So if you looked at me and we met in person, you would never know I have tattoos, because it's not even on purpose. Yeah. I felt like the back was just the coolest spot for them, and the back hip and the back area. And all of a sudden I was like, what's the forearm feel like? And I was getting like ideas on, is it painful? Like how, whatever. And so I'm kind of glad I did it, because now I have no excuse. People will see it. They'll ask me questions like my pink hair, and I'll kind of open up about the story of it, very soon. I figure I'll need a whole episode just for that, but
they're sort of liberating, but they're also a really great, conversation piece
100%
with people. And I'll find myself sometimes in Florida, especially when my parents were alive, I would have people come up to me and say my name, and I'm like, how do you know my name? And they're like, well, I can read it on your arm because it's in Arabic and it says Fausto.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm like, wow. So it opens this whole, they're like, why do you have Arabic on your arm? And I said, well, then I go into this whole story, which is kind of funny. When I left catering in 2004 and went to work for a restaurant, there was a hostess, and she was enamored with, when I say enamored, like loved me. And I'm like, I'm gay. There's no chance. And so I kept trying to explain it to her, but she didn't speak. She was from Morocco.
Yeah.
But she was really just a precious person. She was really nice, and she spoke a little bit English, but she spoke Russian, and it was a Russian Jewish restaurant.
Wow.
And I said to her one day, I said, hey, will you write my name in Arabic? And she did, and it was so beautiful that I had it tattooed on my arm, but she took it as we were going to be going out. And I'm like, oh no. No, no, no. I just like the way it looks. So
Oh
everything
my
has a
God.
story that's on my body, which is really interesting because I didn't set out to create a story around it, but it sort of has become this sort of kind of way that I can almost like hieroglyphics on a
Hmm.
stone. And so I'm putting these stories together, and I just love it because I know when I got it, who tattooed it for me, and things like that. I think that they're the stigma of them being dirty or prison or low life. So, the way that society has targeted
That has
tattoos.
much changed in my lifetime
Yeah,
as well. Yeah.
yeah,
And I like it when I was in high school, even getting my ears pierced several times was like, oh.
yeah.
So I just got more and more and more as it goes all the way up my ear now. But I
I,
met people in my lifetime that had those kinds of things. They were just very rare, you
mhm.
know?
I don't know. I think as you go, I think the stupidest tattoo I have is Rebel.
Wait, is
And
it
I
is
know,
it proper like Rebel
no, it's actually in
in
Chinese.
another language? Okay, it's in Chinese. Okay.
And it's on my hip, and I'm like, oh, I'm so cool.
What was you said you told me the story of your first tattoo, but did you tell me what your first tattoo was?
That was my first tattoo.
The rebel one?
On my hip, and I thought I was gonna pass out because it's on literally the freaking
Ooh,
bone.
the bone. And then the thing about tattoos is like sometimes you feel like do they place it right because I said shoulder blade, not spine.
Well, it's really interesting because you always wonder what's in their head when they're tattooing you. Like, this has got to be like some of them must say this has got to be the stupidest thing I'm doing,
Yeah,
and they do it. And
I remember I told the story on one of the first episodes. The first tattoo I got was in Kansas because it was illegal in Oklahoma at the time. But what I didn't expound on is the guy who did our tattoo was this big burly biker dude. Like he was the everything you could think about the look, and he had a big old bull ring in his nose. But the cool thing about him though is that he realized that we were like young. We were like, I was barely 18 years old, not gonna lie. Like I had just turned 18 in July, and I said, let's go get a tattoo. And I'd already been to Sturgis, South Dakota, and I was very inspired by all the bikers and all the, all that culture, right?
yeah,
And so I said, well, I'm going to go pick a spider off the wall. So I got my spider done. But he was just what I meant to say was he was very caring about the fact that we were young, and he was very protective.
yeah,
He didn't let anybody strange into the room. And then we were both there together, thankfully, with my roommate at the time. And it was really her idea. But I had never experienced that before. Like nothing like that. Like, it's not like drawing blood. It's like a needle going up and down on your skin, and you're just like just actually like I held her hand, and I think I squished it, but now I'm like, okay, I'm good, whatever. It burns a lot.
well,
But
it's funny because
yeah.
women tend to deal with pain better, because when I had the tattoo on my back
Hmm.
done, I was going, ow, ooh, ow, and then I was watching a woman get a full sleeve and not move or go ow once.
That is so funny because when I got one done, I won't tell the whole story, but like when I got one done on this back side up towards my rib cage, it started getting really
Mhm.
ticklish. Like really ticklish. And I was trying not to leap off the table, not because of pain, because it was very ticklish. So I was just laughing about that in general. But yeah, well, you know what? We're coming to the end of our
Yeah.
time here. But I want to thank you for coming on with me today. I think I've learned
You.
a lot about not only you, but how you viewed parenting at the time in your life where you had a newborn, shifting into a different state. I grew up moving around to
Mhm.
state, city to city. But I definitely don't regret it. And I think you're probably going to be same as me. We don't regret the decisions that we made in
No.
our lifetime. You've got this beautiful kid now, and I've got my beautiful little kid, and they're getting to see a whole different kind of world right now. And I think we're just lucky to have them, right?
So I agree 100%. And I have to give a shout out for a lot of the moms that are out there, because you do put up with a lot. And the last thing I'll say is, COVID was the craziest time in the world for everybody, but it was even crazier for two men with a baby who with a 16-year-old. Well, no, she was 15 at the time, a
Oh,
15-year-old getting her gift from God.
Oh,
That
I
was
don't miss
crazy.
those days. I do. Oh
So,
yeah, yeah. That
so
gift Aunt Flo visited.
exactly. So that she'll kill me when she hears this when she's older, but it was one of those things like, God bless you women, because you really put up
It's
with
a
a lot.
rite of passage I wish didn't exist. I'll be on. That's a whole other podcast right
Yeah,
there. But
exactly.
but thank you so much for coming
My
on
pleasure.
today and sharing part of your life with us. And I look forward to releasing this episode. Again, I snagged your photo from the Events Therapy magazine because I
Awesome.
think it encompasses everything about who I feel you are. You're very playful. You're almost like mischievous in a way, but you're lovable and you're kind and you have your own flair. So I think that's wonderful. So
Thanks.
thank you again, Fausto, for joining us. And we're going to round it out today. So we'll talk to you soon on the next episode.
Bye.
Bye.